Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
A very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us today. It is the 24th of May 2021. The show is Diaspora Dispatches. We are going to bring you the latest news from across the continent. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're tuned in today. Just a few minutes past noon here in Nairobi, and we do have so much in store for you. Being on Monday, a lot of things happened over the weekend, and we'll start off with Senegal. And Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko has been barred from leaving the country to attend a conference scheduled for this week. He had been invited by economist Kako Nabuko, to take part in a convention on the future West African currency, which will be held on the 26th to 28th May in the Togolese capital, Lomé. A court ruling by Judge Abdoulaye Assane Thione denied Mr. Sonko permission to leave the country. Mr. Sonko has an ongoing rape case and was released on condition that he stays within the country's borders. His arrest in March sparked protests across the country, with his party saying the rape allegations were political. He is a fierce critic of President Macky Sall. And then we go to Mozambique. Mozambique's army over the weekend foiled an attempted attack by Islamist militants in the northern part of Palma, according to President Filipe Nyusi. Palma is a near major gas project run by the French energy giant Total. In March, hundreds of militants linked to the Islamic State group stormed the town in an attack that left dozens dead. The president said the weekend's incident saw militants attempt to invade the village of Lumbi in Palma district. He added that the militants killed 5 of their own who attempted to defect. Mr. Nyusi made the remarks at a meeting of the governing Frelimo party held in Matola in Maputo province. He said his government was open to foreign support to combat the insurgency in the north, as no one should consider themselves immune or capable of combating terrorism alone. And then we head over to Egypt, and a court in Egypt has denied a request made by the owner of the ship that blocked the Suez Canal in March to have it released. The ever-given ship owner wanted his vessel to be released pending the determination of another case in which the Suez Canal Authority is seeking compensation for the 6 days blockade. The authority says the compensation covers the cost of freeing the ship, damage costs, and diversion of ships away from the canal. And then we head over to Nigeria, and leaders of all Progressive Congress in the southwest, including the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, the governors in the region on Sunday reinforced the call for true federalism and a ban of open grazing in the country. The party leaders who met in Lagos backed some of the decisions of the southern governors in Asaba Delta State, saying there was the need for the federal government to address insecurity in the country. And still staying with Nigeria, and the United States is not ready to declare the leader of Nigeria's Boko Haram terror group dead, despite reports from the region of his demise. Reports that Shekau was dead first appeared on social media earlier last week, saying that he died during a confrontation with fighters from the rival Islamic State West African terror group Northeast Nigeria's Sambisa Forest, known to be Shekau's base of operations. A poster advertising for the search of Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau is pasted in walls across Maiduguri in the northeastern state of Borno in Nigeria. Now, some of the accounts said Shekau killed himself either by shooting himself or by detonating a suicide vest after he was captured and told to pledge allegiance to the IS terror group. And the United States is not very keen in agreeing that Shekau is dead. What is really happening there in Nigeria? And we will have this conversation in a very short bit. And we head over to South Sudan. And South Sudan's Deputy Foreign Minister has said his government would like to be engaged in discussions surrounding the construction of the giant dam in Ethiopia. Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan are currently engaged in the talks over the filling of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam on the Blue Nile. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has been a source of tension in the River Nile basin ever since Ethiopia broke ground on it in 2011. Downstream neighbors Egypt and Sudan view the dam as a threat because of their dependence of the Nile waters, while Ethiopia considered it essential for its electrification and development. Ethiopia argues that the dam would regulate water for irrigation and increase water flows to Egypt. And then we head over to Mali, and members of Mali's prison service are this week set to launch a 10-day strike that is expected to end on 7th of June. Their protest aims to put pressure on the country's transitional authority to implement a memorandum of understanding signed in December 2020. Members of the country's main trade union, the National Union of Malian Workers, also began a nationwide strike last week to demand for better pay. Recent months has seen mounting public anger over the slow pace of reforms by Mali's transitional government. And then we go to Somaliland, and the self-declared Republic of Somaliland marked 30 years of self-rule with festivities in the capital, Hargeisa. On March 18, 1991, Somaliland announced independence from the rest of Somalia. The crucial event occurred at Burao town, about 160 kilometers east of Hargeisa, the capital, following a reconciliation conference where representatives of multiple clans converged just 5 months after the fall of the dictatorial regime of General Mohammed Said Barre in Mogadishu in January 1991. The self-rule was announced by the Somali National Movement, a guerrilla group that fought Mr. Barre's military in the former British Somalia. Republic's first president for 2 years on an interim, and since then the state has held a number of presidential elections that saw Mohamed Ibrahim Egal, Dahir Rayel Kahin and Mohamed Mahamoud Silanyo rise to power. Somaliland's current president is Muse Bihi Abdi, and that is the latest. So let's just get into this conversation, and we start with this one from Nigeria. As we all know, I think we had this conversation here yesterday, and we know the military army, first of all, the head of the military there in Nigeria, I think was killed on a plane crash on Friday. And there is an outrage because President Buhari did not attend the burial. Let me just get you the information of that. All right. So there's been an outrage in Nigeria because President Buhari decided not to attend the burial of Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru, who died in a plane crash on Friday, and an unofficial visit to the northern state of Kaduna, which has had several security challenges in recent months. The presidency, of course, announced that, but President Buhari did not bother to attend the burial of his army chief there. Now, the Air Force said in a statement that its plane crashed near the Kaduna airport and that it was investigating the cause. The presidency said in addition to the army general, other military officers died in the crash. So about 11 people died. This General Atahiru, Ibrahim Atahiru, and 10 others, making them 11. And this is not the first. I think this is the third plane crash, military plane crash, since the beginning of the year there in Nigeria. So questions are being raised. And then this thing of Boko Haram leader having died because the government, yes, was it yesterday or Friday? We were having this yesterday. We were having this conversation over the possible. There are rumors that the leader of Boko Haram has died. The government said there's a possibility that two opposing militant groups must have, one of them must have killed him. But how the U.S. is reacting to this news or to this information is what really, leaves a lot of dots there to be filled for me, because the United States, they're saying we will not be quick to join in the choir and agree that this person is dead unless we have proof that actually this person is dead. Now, the United States, this is according to the spokesperson for the White House and National Security Council. He told the Voice of America that the United States has not yet been able to independently verified these reports and continues to monitor the situation, even after reports have emerged that Abubakar Shekau, the leader of Boko Haram in Nigeria, is dead. So what really is happening there in Nigeria, and why would the government, decide to come on and issue information that it has not really confirmed that Shekau is dead? Is he really dead? The leader of Boko Haram in Nigeria, has he died? Has anybody seen his body? What were the circumstances under which he died? So the government in Nigeria is speculating that another militant group, that is the Islamic State, must have, killed, apparently went and captured Shekau, and then he refused to pledge allegiance to the IS terror group, and so they killed him. So these are just theories that are being peddled around, but there are no concrete evidence that actually Shekau is dead. So what is really happening? And also the death of this army chief, Ibrahim Attahir. Remember, he took on January. He was appointed and given that position in January after President Buhari, I think, got rid of the security heads in that country because of the increase of insecurity in Nigeria. And I don't know, this being the third plane crash involving the military, I think there's more to this than just meet the eye, because we know even the former military officials, top officials there in Nigeria, the government was quite hesitant, to fire them because it was said, if you fire these people, then you will be creating another insecurity in Nigeria. And I think this is a conversation I heard here sometimes back last year, and I was wondering why, if you've been given a position to serve, especially such a sensitive position to hold on the apparatus of the security of a country, and you cannot deliver on that, then you have no business staying there and still continuing to be at the helm of that very important docket. So, I mean, the right thing to do is to be fired. But, some people from the government of Nigeria, said that firing these people perhaps will not be a very good idea. And now you see, after the firing of some of them and the new people were brought into these positions, you see a lot of this insecurity now, planes of the military are crashing from this year 3 times, and now the head of the Nigerian army died in a plane crash on Friday, going to the north to look at the matter of the insecurity that has engulfed that part of Nigeria. And you wonder, him and 10 other military members there, 11 of them perished in this military crash. So what is really happening? What were they going to unearth that perhaps, I don't know, it's just, I'm just thinking out loud. As a journalist, sometimes you cannot just take information from just the basic level there. What is really happening? Is it as just a genuine accident? This being the 3rd time, only that this has claimed more lives than the ones before. There's another one that happened, I think, the 2nd time, that did not claim really a lot of lives there. But this happened. So is it just a coincidence that this army chief has died while going on a mission to look at the insecurity in Kaduna State that we know has been engulfed with insecurity? It is the source. It is the core of, the insecurity that we see in the northern Nigeria. Was it just an accident? What is really going on? Who are these people that were fired that perhaps are not very keen on, maybe this new, security army chief was up to the task and was, serious about getting rid of Boko Haram, and perhaps some people are not very happy about it. Am I overthinking the situation? Let me know what you think. But I think there's so much to this story, and I just refuse to believe it was just a normal, crash. It cannot be. This is the 3rd time there has been an army plane crash in Nigeria, and this time it was able to claim the life of the head of the army in Nigeria. Tell me if this is a coincidence or not, or if there's more to read from this. And there was a meeting of All Progressive Congress in the Southwest region, including the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi, and they met the governors in the Southwest region, and they were discussing the issue to do with herders and pastoralists. And, we've seen how that conflict has been ongoing, and since the return of democracy in 1999 in Nigeria has been grappling with a lot of issues from security challenges, and we've seen election violence. we've seen kidnapping now being on the rise, and of course the issue of herders and farmers that have become a huge conflict that is now, threatening to tear Nigeria even further apart. So there were, suggestions that were made by the federal government of Nigeria. They're led by President Muhammadu Buhari to allow herders to be herding across the country. And the people on the north side of Nigeria, they're herders. And the issue of open herding has been a big challenge, especially to the people of the other side of Nigeria who were farmers. So when these herders just walk into the lands and they've farmed and this, with their herd, with their cattle and goats and all these things that they're keeping, and they destroy the crops of the farmers. So that has not augured very well. And President Buhari's administration was really, for this mode of grazing. But now there's a meeting that happened over the weekend from governors of the Southwest, and they said, we want the ideals of true federalism reinforced, in the sense that now we want to ban at the open grazing in the country. And of course that was led by leaders, the southern governors leaders. They met in the Delta state there now over the weekend. So this is just part of the communique that they made. Let me just read you the agreement that they made, just part of it. And this is what they said: we hold to the view that true federalism, where more power and resources allocated to the states, will be an essential part in the strengthening society and improving democratic governance, so that we beat the present challenges but also engender durable peace and security. True federalism and the reallocation of resources and authority that comes with it will empower the states to solve localized issues before they spread and transform into national ones. In addition to mitigating political competition for control of the national government, greater federalism will empower grassroots economic development and political reforms that will stand as bulwarks against the terrorism and the criminality now experienced in too many parts of the nation. A hallmark of this enhanced federalism will be the establishment of state police forces. And then it went further and said, and now we agree with the resolution, I think, that was reached a couple of days ago, of banning open grazing in the country. And of course, a few, I think, governors from the southern part, Southwest part did not attend this meeting, but they said, let us embrace the true spirit of federalism, and let's be mindful of the rest of other Nigerians who are not herders, but because the herders and the farmers there, they've had a huge conflict since so many years ago because of the lack of resources and natural like grass and the grazing lands up in the north. So they wander and come into these other parts of Nigeria, and I can't remember the name of that open grazing. The government had a name for it, and they wanted to make a plan where herders could go anywhere in Nigeria, create their own small place there for grazing. Once they're done, they go to another place and another place. Basically, they just traverse the whole country, and there were supposed to be rules and laws to protect them while they do that. But the people who are on these other parts of Nigeria, who are mostly farmers, said, no, we cannot allow that to happen, because first of all, they will be encroaching on our own personal land, and the second, they will be messing up our crop, which makes a lot of sense. So as I have mentioned there, these are just one of the many conflicts that Nigeria has to grapple with, and we've seen states like Benue, we've seen states like Nasarawa ban, this open grazing in the states there. So struggle for grazing land and scarce resources have over the years resulted, of course, in perennial and growing violent conflicts in terms of frequency, intensity, and geographic scope. So I don't know what is your position. I don't know if you're watching me and you're familiar with this conflict there in Nigeria. What do you make of it? Let me just read a few of your comments here. I see you have a lot to say. And let me see which one I can get here. So Matthew, okay, Reka, thank you so much for watching. Let me see. Mazi Chukuma, you're saying, you want Nigeria to end now so that lives could be saved. Sunny, Paul, Chukwebeka, you're saying unbelievable. So this is the so-called army apply same brutality against innocent citizens in other country as they do in Nigeria. What is wrong? Okay. All right. So you're wondering what's wrong with Africa, I think, in a nutshell. Jack Ekweibo, you're saying Chuku. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Some of your names, I can't read them very well, so you will forgive me for that. Onyebuchi Nana, you're saying Nigeria's government, you're calling it evil. But anyway, I'd like to know what you make of this ban on open grazing in the country, because that was something that the government of President Buhari was keen on doing. And he hadn't, I can't remember the name of that grazing something. And so herders were to be allowed to graze across the rest of Nigeria in an open grazing I don't know, scheme or whatever that is. And that brought a lot of conflict between the herders and the farmers especially. So the leadership of All Progressive Congress, the leadership from the Southwest came out and said, yes, we reiterate our position. We want reinforcement of the true spirit of federalism, and we add our voice on the ban of open grazing in the country. So let me know what you think of this new position that has been adopted by these leaders of All Progressive Congress from Southwest region there. Let me know what you think. And the fact that President Buhari did not attend the burial of his the head of army in the country who died from that plane crash on Friday. This is a person he is the head of the army of Nigeria. I know President Buhari is a commander-in-chief, but this person has the army in Nigeria, and President Buhari did not find it necessary to attend his burial, and a lot of Nigerians were not amused by the failure of the head of state, the commander-in-chief, to attend the burial of his army commander who died, General Ibrahim Atihure, and other 10 military officers who died in this unfortunate plane crash on a Friday. So let me know what you make of this, and also your thoughts on this open grazing in the country, Nigeria. And as I said there, I think, is it now 2 or 3 states have banned the open grazing in their states, Benue State being one of them, and another one. And also the United States refusing to believe that Shekau is dead, the Boko Haram leader in Nigeria. They're saying, we will not be too quick to come in and join in the song of Shekau is dead. We need enough information for us to know. Show us a body, a photo, something. We cannot just join in and agree that this person is dead. And as I told you here, we talked about this yesterday. There were reports and rumors. And actually, not even reports and rumors. The government yesterday, I think, addressed this issue, and they're saying there's a possibility that Shekau is dead, and the possibility is that he was killed by another militant group, the Islamic State, IS, who apparently captured him, and he refused to pay allegiance to their group, and so they killed him. And that was, the government was just speculating, so they're not even sure if that is the case. And so the United States is saying it's not ready to declare the leader of Nigeria's Boko Haram terror group dead, despite reports from the region of his demise. Now we know that the reports that Shekau was dead first appeared on social media earlier last week, saying that he died during a confrontation with fighters, as I've told you here, from the rival Islamic State of West Africa, a terror group in northeast Nigeria's Sambisa forest. So they even know where Shekau is. Why hasn't the government of Buhari done anything to even attempt to apprehend this person and the kind of things he does, and his people there in Nigeria? They even know where they even know his location, really. It is last week we were having this conversation about this cleric who acts as the mediator when people have been, like we've seen the universities that were the latest, they were the latest victims of kidnappings by Boko Haram in the north part of Nigeria. And this Muslim cleric is the one who was the mediator, who was talking to the terrorists and talking on behalf of the government and, the relatives of these students who had been kidnapped, and he was the one who has been mediating and is given the ransom, and he was just happy to do his job, and he had the contacts of this terrorist group. And I wondered if President Buhari is really keen on fighting and getting rid of Boko Haram, then why is this person still allowed to be in contact with Boko Haram? Why can't they take him so that he can show the government where Boko Haram is? He seemed to be in good contact with them. He had a wonderful relationship, because there are other students who are still left there, having not been released after the kidnappings. And he said, don't worry, they'll not die. I will talk to them. They will not kill them. After negotiating with them, you'll get your children back safe. Why? What is happening? Why is this person still walking there? Why is this person not in police custody or under government, custody, so that he can help in identifying where Boko Haram is? If at all the government of Nigeria cannot do that, why? Why? And they cannot come out outrightly and say, and tell us whether Shekau is dead or not. That is quite interesting. So let's just see how that story will pan out. Something else I wanted us to talk about today. South Sudan's Deputy Foreign Minister said his government would like to keep writing. I'll read some of your comments very shortly. Just keep writing. I see a lot of you are writing and engaging. Please, I appreciate that. Keep writing, and I'll go through some of your comments and hear what you have to say about all this. Now, South Sudan's Deputy Foreign Minister has said his government would like to be engaged in discussions surrounding the construction of the giant dam in Ethiopia. Why, South Sudan? No, you should not be involved in those, in those talks. South Sudan, you have enough to deal with there in South Sudan. This is not your battle. This is not your cup of tea. Leave that alone. Leave Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan to work out this disagreement, to work out this misunderstanding on the Grand Renaissance Dam, Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, that Egypt and Sudan has been having a problem. So now South Sudan's Deputy Foreign Minister is saying, South Sudan would want to be engaged, and this is what he was quoted as saying: South Sudan, although we are not a party to the discussions, we are an interested party on issues that are being discussed. Currently, some parts of the Upper Nile in South Sudan are flooded because of rainfall last year and this year, and we want to be engaged in the discussions that are ongoing. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has been a source of tension in the Nile River Basin ever since Ethiopia broke ground in 2011. South Sudan, just stay out of it. Can you focus on the revitalized peace agreement of 2018? Can you focus on bringing together your army forces there in South Sudan? Can you focus on getting South Sudanese out of refugee camps? Can you focus on elections that are supposed to be happening next year? The government said now there are no possibilities of that election happening. Can you focus on things that matter in South Sudan? Please, just focus on things that are important to the people. Leave the Nile conflict to Sudan, leave the Nile conflict to Ethiopia, and also to Egypt. And Egypt seems to be the person that is aggrieved the most with the building of the Grand Renaissance Ethiopian dam that will affect the flow of water in Egypt. We know that the Nile River is the only source of fresh water for Egypt, and so Egypt has been raising a lot of concerns since this dam started being built about 10 years ago. And Ethiopia used almost $5 billion. A lot of money to build this dam. So they have been in the process of refilling it. They started filling it last year. So they will be continuing, I think, starting next month during the long rains to fill this dam. Egypt is not very happy about it. So South Sudan now wants to be involved in these talks. Initially, it was between Ethiopia and Egypt, and then later on Sudan also now joined, and it has been a third wheel in this conversation. So now South Sudan also wants to invite itself on this table. This is not your place, South Sudan. You have enough to deal with. Please focus on the things that are important to the people of South Sudan. Focus on implementing the articles of the Revitalized Peace 2018. Focus on where the revenue you're getting from the oil is going? Can you account for that? Just focus on things that matter to the people of South Sudan. I don't think Nile River is an issue right now. When you look at the priorities of the things that South Sudan would want the government to pay attention to. So I think this is very misplaced, a thing that now you want to pursue. This is not your battle, South Sudan. You stay out of it and focus on things that matter to the people of South Sudan. Very well. Let me just go through a few of your comments here, and then I still have a couple of minutes to go, and let me hear what you have to say over what is happening there. I see a lot of you. All right, so Nonso Damian, you're asking me, do you want to know why? I don't know if that question was posed to me, and I don't know where it's coming from, but you're saying because Britain wants to see us go into war so that they will strengthen their ties with Nigeria government by supplying them arms to win the war, and in a bid to receiving oil proceeds and payments. No su onye flozi. Such a long name. You're saying they even know where the bandits live. You know what? From the reports that we've been getting coming from Nigeria, I cannot even begin to imagine. We're here in Nairobi, Kenya, right? That a terrorist group, and we do have a very stubborn terrorist group that has emanated from Somalia, the Al-Shabaab. I'm sure you all know about it. But I cannot imagine them walking in a school, kidnapping a whole 200 plus, students, keeping them someplace, because also the Al-Shabaab are in the northern part of Kenya. There seems to be problems in northern parts of countries, especially in Africa. I don't know why. Maybe that is a conversation we should have for another day. So in our northern part of Kenya, we have that problem. But what has happened is the government of Kenya has improved in its intelligence, has improved in its strategy, have gone way and beyond to ensure that they are able to curb this issue of extremism in the country. Is still a challenge, but the government of Kenya is matching that challenge by going out of its way and ensuring that they're able to employ the best ways possible and the best means possible and the best strategies possible to ensure that Kenyans' lives are protected. Because, as I've said here before, the work of a president of any republic is to ensure that, number one, he protects the lives of the people that he has been put in place there to protect. And President Buhari has failed to do that. And he has, failed to do that. We can see from what has been happening there in Nigeria. But of late, he's been seeking for help. He was talking to President Emmanuel Macron sometimes back last week, and they said, hey, we need France's help in fighting Boko Haram. He was talking to the U.S., I think 2 weeks ago, and they said, hey, you can even move the Africa, center from Germany, bring it to Africa so that we're able to effectively fight Boko Haram. And this is the same person that when some of these countries were offering to come in and help him fight Boko Haram a couple of years ago, he was not keen. He refused to receive that help. So now he's been overwhelmed. He seems to have been cornered by this terrorist, organization. So now he's saying, okay, 1 year until I leave office, now you can come in and help me. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So what I was saying is, I cannot imagine as a Kenyan, our school, children captured, kidnapped, and they've been placed somewhere for even a week, for even a day. Impossible. Impossible. The government of Kenya will do all it can in its position as the government to ensure a safe rescue effort and to go after these people. So how a whole part of a country has been turned into a child's play by a terrorist group, and the government seems to be quite helpless in dealing with this matter. That is something I've not been able to fathom very, very well, because what is happening? A whole government cannot deal decisively with the issue of insecurity. Instead, we see Boko Haram continue to do very well, to flourish, to even to recruit more young Nigerians. And when you hear some of the suggestions that are being put forth on how to fight, this Boko Haram, you wonder, are they suggestions that are meant to actually bring a solution and to address effectively the issue of insecurity and extremism there in Nigeria. Others are suggesting, how about the ones who have repented? We give them some scholarship, they go study abroad. Others are saying, how about we just incorporate them into the Nigerian army so that they serve the country after killing and terrorizing people. Now you bring them and they serve the same people. What sense does that even make? You wonder if at all there is a will and a commitment to fighting extremism there in Nigeria. So let me just read a few of your comments and then I'll be calling it a day. And Chukudi, you're saying Northern Nigeria loves puzzle games based on death. That is not a funny puzzle game, Chukudi, right? Because these are people's lives that hang in a balance. You're lucky to go to school and come back alive. You're lucky to have your child go play outside and call them back in for lunch if at all they've not been, a grenade has not been thrown to them and they're dead, because you've seen several cases, even children being targeted in their playing fields. Sidonio, Jivandas, you're watching us from Mozambique. You're saying there are all terrorists. That is the reason why Nigeria is a failed state. We African, we are not able to be part of the federalism if we cannot even talk to one another of direct ethnic group. Okay, and who else? Cynthia Love, you're saying it's because they are the grand patron and matron of those terrorist groups, but Biafra, we crumble them by... all right, thank you so much. And, okay, too many comments. Perhaps I might not be able to go through all of them together. I don't know what you feel that President Buhari did not attend the burial of his army chief that died from a plane crash on Friday. I don't know what you make of that, because I was seeing a lot of Nigerians were not very happy, and they were questioning President Buhari. Say, how do you not attend the burial of the army chief who died on a mission to go pacify the northern Nigeria? The plane crash happened in Kaduna State, I think, and that is the epicenter of terrorism activities in the northern part of Nigeria. All right, I have to go now. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for engaging with us this afternoon. My name is Miriam Ogoto. It has been a pleasure. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Today, thousands and thousands of Africans and many countries in Africa have conflicts. Notably, from Libya, Cameroon, Nigeria, Biafra, and Boko Haram, to Democratic Republic of Congo, of where we have seen a resurgence of the past military and conflicts coming back in that country. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been displaced, killed, maimed, tortured, raped, several of them dying of hunger, starvation, and other natural causes. The fighting seems not to be ending. For the sake of Libya, the Libyan recognized international government is under siege in Tripoli from another faction recognized by Egypt France, UAE, and other countries. Whereas the one in Tripoli is recognized by the UN, it has been bombarded, has been strangulated, and many millions of Libyans are dying of hunger, lack of water. The water system has been cut off. The bombardment goes on. In Democratic Republic of Congo, we've seen more of active rebel activities returning to the region after some silence has been observed. When we come to Cameroon, we see millions and millions of Amazonians slaughtered. Yet, when you come to Biafra, again millions and hundreds of millions and millions are worried, displaced, tortured by the Buhari regime. Yet again in the north, we see Boko Haram killing, maiming, abducting, and burning down villages in the same Nigeria. When you cross over to Central African Republic, the same is the history that has littered Africa. While all these events are taking shape, Africa is silent. Africa is not making enough efforts to find a solution to what is causing the problems in Libya, in DRC, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, Biafra, and now you add in Khartoum, Sudan. As people die, the people of Africa have no answers, have no solutions. There's nothing to bring an end to the conflicts that have killed Africa. We seem to be new ones manufactured, old ones reignited, encouragement coming from external powers. One power that has been seen in the shadows of all these conflicts, especially the one of Libya that has escalated in the Sahara region of Africa, is France. When you come to Democratic Republic of Congo, the same country is in the shadows. The war can be seen is France. When you come to Cameroon, in Amazonia, the one behind that has the key to bringing peace is France. Therefore, our question as Africans, why are we silent? Why are we not saying enough is enough of the wars? Thank you.